Elizabeth Taylor sunbathed here. Brigitte Bardot drank cocktails by the pool. Richard Burton called it paradise. In the early 1970s, this stretch of coastline on the eastern edge of Cyprus was one of the most glamorous destinations on Earth. 89 hotels, thousands of tourists from every corner of Europe, golden sand, turquoise water, a Mediterranean dream. Then, on the morning of August 14, 1974, the air raid sirens went off, and 15,000 people ran for their lives. They left everything behind. Dinner tables still set, laundry still hanging on the line, cars parked in driveways with the keys still inside, shop windows full of fur coats and brand new televisions. They thought they'd be gone for a few days, maybe a week. It's been 50 years. They never went back. Today, the buildings are still standing. The hotels are still there. 10 stories of concrete and broken glass, slowly being swallowed by trees that have grown through the lobbies and out through the windows. A car dealership still has 1970s models rusting in the showroom. A giant construction crane towers over an unfinished hotel with 3 blocks of cement still dangling from its arm. The operator who left them there ran with everyone else. This is Varosha, the 5-star ghost town, the place where time stopped in 1974 and never started again. To understand what Varosha became, you need to understand what it was. Varosha is a beachfront district of Famagusta, a city on the eastern coast of Cyprus. The island itself sits in the eastern Mediterranean, south of Turkey, west of Syria, and has been fought over for centuries, by the Ottomans, the Venetians, the British, and eventually by the people who lived there. In the 1960s, Cyprus gained independence from Britain, and almost immediately, Varosha began to boom. By 1970, tourism accounted for over half of Cyprus's entire economy, and Varosha was the engine driving all of it. Hollywood came. European royalty came. ABBA, before they were famous, performed an informal show for UN peacekeepers stationed nearby in 1970. It was reportedly the first time all 4 members ever performed together. At its peak, Varosha had over 10,000 tourist beds. Restaurants, nightclubs, cinemas, travel agencies, banks, even a Sony showroom and a Hoover appliance store. For the people who lived there, life was beautiful. One former resident described it simply, like a dream. But underneath the glamour, the island was a powder keg. The tension between Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots had been building for years. Both communities claimed the island. Both had powerful allies. Greece on one side, Turkey on the other. In 1963, violent clashes erupted. Turkish Cypriots were forcibly relocated. Greek Cypriots were killed in retaliation. The UN sent peacekeepers. A fragile ceasefire held, barely. Then, on July 15, 1974, the Greek military junta in Athens backed a coup against the Cypriot government. The goal? Unite Cyprus with Greece. Turkey saw this as a direct threat to the Turkish Cypriot population. 5 days later, on July 20th, 40,000 Turkish troops invaded northern Cyprus. By mid-August, the Turkish army reached Famagusta. The residents of Varosha woke to the sound of air raid sirens just after 5 a.m. Fighter jets screamed overhead. Shells began falling on the outskirts of the city. One woman who was there remembers her mother lowering the window blinds to block the summer heat, a reflex of normal life, while bombs fell a few streets away. Within hours, the British military base nearby helped coordinate an evacuation. 15,000 Greek Cypriot residents poured out of Varosha, on foot, by car, by any means they could find. They grabbed their children. Maybe a bag, maybe nothing at all. A 14-year-old boy named Andreas Charalambos fled with his family that morning. Years later, he said, "It ruined my life. My parents lost everything. They were in their 40s and had to start from scratch." The Turkish military hadn't originally planned to take Varosha. Their target was the old walled city of Famagusta and the Turkish Cypriot community sheltering inside. But when they saw that Varosha had been abandoned, empty hotels, empty streets, empty everything, they moved in. And then they locked the gates. Barbed wire went up around the entire district. Turkish soldiers took positions at every entrance. Nobody was allowed in. Not the former residents, not journalists, not the United Nations. For the next 46 years, Varosha sat in silence. Nature didn't wait for permission. Trees grew through hotel lobbies. Vines crawled up balconies. Sand drifted across roads. Wild plants split through concrete. Sea turtles, undisturbed by humans for the first time in decades, began nesting on the beach. An entire ecosystem emerged from the ruins. A cactus species called babutsa spread across the abandoned gardens, sprouting sweet fruit where manicured lawns once stood. The few journalists and UN inspectors who were allowed in over the years reported scenes frozen in time. Dusty tables still set for dinner. Shop windows displaying 1970s fashion, bell-bottoms, fur coats, platform shoes, faded by decades of sun. A car showroom with models from 1974, tires flat, paint stripped by salt air. It was as if someone had pressed pause on an entire city and walked away. The United Nations passed resolutions demanding Varosha be returned to its original inhabitants. Turkey refused. The town became a bargaining chip, held hostage in a peace negotiation that has lasted 50 years and counting. Varosha became more than a ghost town. It became a wound that never healed. Then, in October 2020, the gates opened. Not because of a peace deal, not because the United Nations succeeded, but because Turkey and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus decided unilaterally to let people in. Turkish President Erdogan and Northern Cyprus leader Ersin Tatar walked through the crumbling streets together. The main avenue was renamed after a Turkish military general from the 1974 invasion, a move that felt less like reconciliation and more like a statement. The European Parliament condemned the reopening. The Greek Cypriot government called it a violation of international law. The United Nations said settling Varosha with anyone other than its original inhabitants was inadmissible. Turkey rejected all of it. Today, parts of Varosha are open to visitors. New pathways have been laid, streetlights restored, cafes have appeared. Tourists ride bicycles down streets lined with crumbling hotels, snapping photos through wire fences at buildings they can't enter. It is one of the strangest tourist experiences on Earth. Sunbathing on a beautiful beach while a decaying skyline looms behind you. Families swimming in turquoise water with the hollow eyes of abandoned hotel windows staring down at them. Some visitors find it fascinating. Others find it deeply uncomfortable. Many of the original Greek Cypriot residents refuse to visit on principle. To them, crossing into northern Cyprus means legitimizing the occupation. Seeing their former homes behind barbed wire, maintained by a military that took them, is not tourism. It's trauma. Varosha has been called many things: a ghost town, a time capsule, a bargaining chip, a symbol of everything wrong with how the world handles conflict. But for the people who lost it, it's none of those things. It's home. A woman named Eleni Markovici built a house in Varosha with her husband in 1971. They raised a family there. When she fled in 1974, she left behind everything: the furniture, the photos, the memories. She moved to California, built a new life. But she never stopped thinking about that house. There are over 275,000 Cypriots who were displaced during the conflicts of the 1960s and 1970s. More than 5,000 were killed. And 50 years later, the island is still divided. A United Nations buffer zone cuts through the capital city of Nicosia, one of the last divided capitals in the world. Diplomats have tried for decades to resolve the Cyprus problem. Every attempt has failed. The situation has been called a diplomatic graveyard. Meanwhile, Varosha keeps decaying. Every year, another building becomes too dangerous to enter. Another roof collapses. Another piece of someone's former life disappears into the vegetation. There's a cruel irony in what's happening. The very thing that makes Varosha so haunting, the fact that it was perfectly preserved for decades, is now the thing destroying it. Without maintenance, without people, without life, concrete doesn't last forever. One day, there will be nothing left to return to. The buildings will be gone. The memories will be gone. The people who remember what Varosha was will be gone. And maybe that's the real tragedy. Not that Varosha was abandoned, but that it waited, patiently, silently, for 50 years for someone to come home. And no one ever did.